Today, we're digging into a pretty startling report that explains why most corporate AI projects they just don't deliver. We're talking billions of dollars down the drain. So we're going to look at the data, figure out where things are going wrong, and then lay out a playbook for how to actually succeed.
Okay, let's just jump right in with the most important number from a really sobering MIT Media Lab report. Get this, 95%. That's the percentage of corporate AI initiatives that shows zero, and I mean zero, return on investment. Nope, that's not a typo. That means for every 20 projects that get started, 19 of them are failing to deliver any kind of measurable value.
And we're not talking about small, experimental side projects here. We are talking about $30 to $40 billion in spending. The report is super clear on this. The problem isn't the AI models themselves, or even regulations. Nope. The difference between success and failure is all about the approach.
So, if the tech actually works, what's going so horribly wrong? Well, the first big issue is that companies are falling into a really old trap. They're chasing the hype. They're not trying to solve real, specific business problems.
And this really comes down to two totally different mindsets. You've got the trend chasers over on one side, starting with this vague idea like, we need an AI initiative, and they get really focused on cool-looking demos. But on the other side, you've got the strategy-driven folks, and they start by asking, hey, what specific problem can AI actually solve for us? And they measure real business results. That one difference is causing a massive misallocation of resources.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. You just have to follow the money. The MIT study found that a huge chunk of AI budgets, a full 60% as you can see, is going straight into these highly visible sales and marketing pilots. Why? Well, because they're easy to pitch, and they're simple for executives to imagine.
But here's the kicker. The data shows the biggest cost savings, the most reliable returns, they're all found in the less glamorous back office stuff. Yeah, we're talking about operations, procurement, finance, basically the engine room of the company, not the shiny showroom.
And believe it or not, it actually gets worse. This mismatch creates something the report calls the amplification effect. The idea is simple but pretty scary. When you apply a powerful technology like AI to a business that's already broken or misaligned, you don't fix the problem. You just do the wrong thing faster. AI literally becomes an accelerant for dysfunction.
So beyond all the strategic mistakes, there's this other huge factor at play, the failure to manage cultural change. And this creates these massive, often invisible roadblocks that can totally sink even the most promising tech projects.
This part is just fascinating. The report points out the rise of what it calls shadow AI. A staggering 90% of employees are already using their personal AI tools, like ChatGPT, to do their jobs. And they're doing it without any official company oversight or support.
I mean, that gap is just huge, right? It shows this massive disconnect between what the company is officially doing and how people are actually getting their work done. And it proves a point that is so crucial to all of this. You can't just install software. You have to manage a fundamental cultural shift.
And this quote, wow, it just brilliantly illustrates how messed up ownership can absolutely kill your ROI. In this real-world case, you've got this one senior manager controlling a global rollout. But because he needs to own the project so tightly, he's completely ignoring the vital feedback from the very teams who will have to use these tools every single day.
So what was the result? Well, on paper, the project looked like a success. The system went live, check the box. But in reality, it only delivered about 65% of its potential value. In that 35% gap, that's not just a number on a chart. That's a failed ROI hiding in plain sight.
Okay, so that's enough about the problems. Let's shift gears and talk about the solution. Let's look at the playbook that the successful 5% are using to get this right.
So, this is absolutely crucial. One of the sharpest findings in the entire MIT report is that projects that bring in external partners succeed almost twice as often as projects that are purely internal. We're talking a 67% success rate for partnerships versus just 33% for the do-it-yourself approach. That's a massive difference.
And the reason for this isn't about intelligence or talent. It comes down to a concept the report calls mileage. You see, your internal teams, they know your business inside and out, which is great, but they just don't have the applied knowledge that comes from doing dozens of these implementations. The external experts bring that 10,000-hour experience in navigating all the complex, messy realities of integration and training. So all of this comes together in a really clear 4-step playbook. 1.
Start with the problem, not the technology. 2. Pair your internal business experts with those external implementation experts. 3. Treat this like a cultural change project from day one. And 4. Decentralize ownership. Let the frontline teams who actually know the workflows have a real say.
All right, so even if you nail the strategy and you get the culture right, there is one last non-negotiable step that separates the successful 5% from everybody else. And that step is deep, meaningful integration.
This slide just highlights the gap so perfectly. You see that about 80% of companies are playing around with general AI tools, but very, very few, we're talking only about 5%, are succeeding at the much harder but way more valuable task of embedding AI into specific daily workflows. Look, AI can't just be a shiny new object that you bolt onto the side of your company. To deliver true ROI, it has to become part of the very fabric of your business. It has to be woven into your ERP, your CRM, your supply chain. This deep integration, that's the dividing line between a cool concept and real-world impact.
Let's wrap this all up with 2 final thoughts. First, this powerful line from the analysis, which I think just says it all. The technology is not a magic wand. It's not going to fix your underlying strategic or cultural problems.
And that brings us to our second, and probably the most important question you should be asking before you spend another dollar on an AI initiative. Is your plan actually set up to amplify your company's strengths, or is it on track to simply accelerate its existing dysfunction? Because the answer to that question will determine which side of that 95% divide you're going to land on.